guys. So, doing this the past 5 months, I have learned that it's a very good idea to check your zoning for, VRBO, Airbnb, short-term rentals. It's a good idea to check your prohibited list, your zoning, and your specific village. So this is strictly Chicago. I'm going to give you an example of a bad address and a good address, okay? So that way you have an idea. So look, you go to, this is the website. Crap, I just freaking left the website. Well, I did it on purpose so you can see. Hold on a second. We'll start with this one. We'll see datacityofchicago.org, buildings, house shared. I'm trying to go back so that way you can see. Okay, there you go. So look at, okay, this is important, and so is this. So here, I'm going to give you one of the properties, and please don't steal this, don't go talk to this. She actually told me, yes, this address I'm going to give you, except it just didn't work with zoning, so I couldn't do it. I was primarily trying to focus in the Midway area, and I actually started focusing east of Cicero to Pulaski, like this area right here, because this area, a lot of these areas right here in Midway are restricted zoning for short-term rentals. I don't know why. I don't know why exactly. But so look, this is the way I do it. So this is the address. So okay, you see, this makes it easier. Sometimes when you type in the address here, it doesn't like, it lets you, but it doesn't. It's just weird. So what I'll do is I'll pull up the maps at the same time. I'll zone out a little bit. So now this is 5307 West 64th Place. Okay, you got to kind of remember the block. So it's 64th Place, one block here. So it's right here, right? Now let's look for it over here. So okay, let's look for it. Hold on. So Central, hold on a second. So I'm going to give you an example so that way you see both sides of it. So it should be somewhere, I always have to double check. Hold on. So one block east, right? So it's the first block. And I try to remember how the buildings look. It's the first one. Okay, so it's the second block, 64th Place, second block right here. Let's go back. Come on. So then, right here, we're Central. Oh man, it's been a while since I've done this. Okay, seriously, yeah, that's Central right there. So look at, let's zoom in a little bit more. Zoom in a little bit more. So if you remember, it's gonna be first block right here. Should be right here. You click on that. Now you get this full text, precinct, ward 13. These right here are the two main things you want to focus. 45 and 13. So now what you do is you go back over here. This is the same exact website. This except that clicked in. So this is the same exact website. So now you go down here. And what was it? Sometimes I gotta double check. So what was it again? Let's go over it again. It's 13 precinct 45 ward 13, right? And again, I might. So ward 13 45. Boom. Look at right here what it says. This is restricted. I don't know what's with this part of Midway, but I think it might just be mainly this part. Most of Chicago might be fine. The only thing with North Chicago, you got to worry about prohibited building list. But you see, now here you go. So right here, restriction. Restrict all new or shared housing, shared units, and vacation rentals. So the good thing is maybe after 30 days this may not apply, but I got to figure that out. So that's how you find out this is a bad address. I could have not done this, and seriously, because the lady told me yes, we were ready to go, and she would have let me do 2 places, but guess what? I would have leased it up, and then I would have got denied for sure. So that's a bad address. Now let me look into my CRM. I'm gonna just give you another address, and again, this is only for Chicago. So Let me give you another address in Chicago that should work. I think, let me see if I remember one by heart. One of the ones I went to go look at. 6501 South Keating Ave. Let me see. This guy actually told me yes too. But then this guy told me yes, and then he was just asking too much. I didn't end up doing it. It was just too much, and I just, yeah, the apartment wasn't, he wanted market rent, and great guy, by the way, just, yeah, maybe I should have done it, I don't know, whatever, but so here you go. This side of Cicero is okay. This side of Cicero is okay. So look, that's Cicero right here. This is, so like, let me zoom out. See, we were doing it over here. This is the one. This side is okay with short-term rental ordinances. I even reached out to the guy in Department of Affairs to check that. So now let's check this one, so that way you can see how to check. So this is going to be 65th, second block. So now let's go over here. And this is time consuming, so I'm definitely going to be outsourcing this. Now,
this is Dunkin' Radio.
So now we're over here, Cicero 65th. What is it, the second block, right? I don't want to make this video too long. But I was told from the guy that you want to at least double check this. You know, it takes a little time, but again, it could save you money. You know, you could probably break the lease, but you might end up, you know, furnishing and doing all this and that. So, okay, we have Panda 1, 2, first building. Okay, Panda 1, 2, first building right here. Bam. There you go. So 3713, right? This should be a good address to do it on. Meaning there's no short-term or shared housing restriction against it. So now let's go over here, back over here. And the way you find out, crap, I forgot what it was. Hold on. Oops. So 37 Ward 13. So go. You see, now you gotta look for it. So now you see, the way you find out if it's good is you wanna not find it on this list. So 13. Hold on. 13. God damn it. 1337. So we're gonna try to find 1337. 1337. And by the looks of it, I don't see it. Okay, so now we go to next. And again, it's very far and few. Most of Chicago should be fine, but 1337. Okay, no. 1337. So it's not in there. So I mean, there's not many that are restricted, but I would just double check anyway. Why not? Unless you have your own place already furnished, like your own primary residence, you may not have to do this. You could just list it and then just see if it gets approved. I don't know. But I thought I'd share this anyway, you know, in case you might want to do it out of state or somewhere else. You may have to go through the step. And then another thing, I guess, more from in North Chicago, you might have to, where is this at? Hold on. Okay, so you might just have to go through, and I don't know how good this website is, but this is more exact, except you have to freaking go through each, like, individual, you have to go through each individual address, which is painful. So I think you might want to go on this website, Rent Confident, and then these are the addresses to the buildings that are prohibited. So you see, if you notice, like, I don't know, there's not many over here. So like, let's just say, hold on, well, let me come back to that. But so look at, these are all prohibited. So this is one thing you wanna, this is more like what you wanna check for North Chicago. You might not have to deal with restricted zoning, but you might, this is probably the main thing you have to deal with. You know, checking if there's a prohibited list. And it's mainly like these big high rises, and just sometimes, you know, people just don't want it. There you go. This doesn't allow it, I guess. This doesn't allow it. They said screw that, you're not doing it.
Know your lingo. That's right. You know what FUD is? No.
I mean, I would just reach out to people. They'll tell you straight up, hey, you can't do it here or not. The key is reaching out to mom and pop owners, people who manage it themselves. Sometimes going through direct, when it comes to subleasing. When it comes to subleasing, you might want to just target people who own the building, because typically property management, from my experience, they just say no, you can't, and they won't even ask. Not everyone, right? But that's just from the hundreds that I've talked to so far. So there you go. So that's what you want to check. Now let's just say you are going to do a short-term rental. You're going to do a short-term rental, say in outside of Chicago, because I was actually trying to target this area: Bearwind, Riverside, maybe Oak Park. So now what you want to do, or even you see all these areas, I'm familiar with the suburbs too, but if you're going to target any other area outside of Chicago, what you have to do is you have to call the village directly, right? You want to call the village directly, and you want to talk to them and ask them what are their ordinances or restrictions, and if they do have any against shared housing, short-term rentals, vacation rentals, yada yada yada. You want to ask them directly, because each is different. I've talked to Bensonville, and they don't restrict it, right? But then they have their little nuances. Bearwind, I don't think they restrict them. So you wanna call the village of each. But in Chicago, I mean, this video is mainly for Chicago. Yeah, I hope that helps, and I hope that you found that valuable. Have a good one.